Hi friends, thanks for joining me for Math Review. I am going to help you as you work through your workbook pages today. I am only going to ask that you work on the even numbers. If you'd like to work on all of the questions, that would be wonderful practice. But again, I am only requiring that you complete the even numbers today. So we're going to start with number 2. The directions for number 2 say compare the fractions. Write less than, greater than, or equal to. So, in order to compare fractions, it's really helpful to use fraction tools. I am going to start out by comparing 2/3 to 1/3 using my fraction strips. Here is 2/3, and in order to compare it to 1/3, I'm going to put my 1/3 size piece above 2/3. And it's very easy to see that 2/3 is greater than 1/3. 2/3 is a bigger piece, and 2/3 is closer to 1/2. Another tool that you can use to compare fractions are your fraction circles. So I took my 1/2 fraction circle, and I took my 2/3. Okay, and I moved these over here, and I took a look at my 1/3. Again, it's really easy to see that 2/3 is greater than 1/3. 2/3 took up more of the whole circle than 1/3 does. All right, the last way that I can compare my fraction is by using a number line. I gave you this number line template in your fraction math kit. So when using our number lines to compare fractions, we're going to start today at 0. And we're going to continue our number line to 1 because our fractions are less than 1. I'm going to use my boxes up top to represent my fraction. So my first fraction today was 2/3. So I'm going to break this one whole box up into thirds. And remember, in order to get 3 pieces, you need to draw 2 lines and try to make them as even as possible. I'm going to erase that because that doesn't look very even to me. Okay, I'm going to label each piece with my unit fraction, 1/3, and I am going to shade in 2 parts to show 2/3. I'm going to label 2/3 on my number line. Up top, I'm going to break this whole box into thirds. I'm going to label each part with my unit fraction, 1/3, and I'm going to shade 1 piece or 1/3 of the whole. Again, it's really easy to see that 2/3 is greater than 1/3, which I need to label here, right? So 2/3 is closer to 1/2 than 1/3. So those are the 3 ways that you can practice comparing fractions. I just want to remind you of a little tip that I use when I need to write the less than and the greater than symbols. I put a dot next to the smaller number, or in this case a smaller fraction, and I draw my lines out from the dot, and now it reads 2/3 is greater than 1/3. Okay, we're going to move on to number 4. I would like you to choose if you want to use fraction strips, your fraction circles, or the number line to compare 7/8 to 5/8. You can go ahead and pause the video, work through comparing these fractions and filling in the answer. Okay friends, great job. We're going to move on to number 6 together today. Number 6 says which fraction is less than 3/6. So again, they're asking us to compare each of these fractions to 3/6. This word less tells us that they want us to compare. So I'm going to use my fraction strips, and I am going to build 3/6. And then I am going to compare 3/6 to my first choice, which is 1/2, to see which fraction is less. And it's very obvious, it's very easy to see that 3/6 is equal to 1/2. They are the same size. So 1/2 is not less than 3/6, so we can go ahead and cross this out. I would like you to do the same thing that I just did using your strips, your circles, or your number line, and I'd like you to compare 3/6 to 2/6 to 5/6 and to 6/6. When you find which fraction is less than 3/6, you can color in your answer. So go ahead and pause the video if you still need to do that. Okay, we are going to take a look at number 8 together. Number 8 says, Maggie says 2/4 is greater than 3/4. So again, she's comparing because of that word greater than. Greg says that 3/4 is greater than 2/4. Who is correct? So we're comparing 2/4 and 3/4. I'm going to use my fraction circles this time. So here's my whole circle. I'm going to take a look at 2/4. And I'm going to take a look at 3/4. So it's pretty easy to see which fraction is greater. 3/4 is greater than 2/4 because 3/4 takes up more of the whole. 3/4 is closer to one whole. So I'm going to write that over here to show my comparison to my fractions. And again, I'm going to draw my dot next to the smaller fraction and draw my lines out. So this reads that 3/4 is greater than 2/4. So Maggie said that 2/4 was greater. That's not right. Greg says that 3/4 is greater than 2/4. So who is correct? We would write Greg. Greg is correct. Okay, excellent job. I'm going to ask you to quickly take a look at number 6. Number 6 is just like the problems 2 and 4 that we did on the front of the page. So I'd like you to pause the video, use one of your math tools to help you compare 6/8 to 3/8, and then you can fill in the answer. Okay, friends, great job working on number 10. I am going to quickly get you set up with number 12, and then I'm going to have you solve number 12 on your own. So number 12 says that Tony walks 7/4 miles. Ro rides her bike 5/4 miles. Who travels farther? So I decided that I'm going to use my number line today. Okay, and you'll notice that on my number line, I started at 0, I went to 1, and then all the way up to 2. I then broke my one whole, you can see this here if I slide this over, into 4 parts. Okay, so I'm going to label that right here because we're working with fourths. Remember, I'm going to label each unit fraction 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4. Okay, then I continued from 1 whole to 2 wholes, so I'm going to continue to label each of these pieces with the unit fraction 1/4. The reason I did this was because the problem says that Tony walks 7/4 miles. So I have to shade in 7 1/4 pieces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So here's my 7/4. So this fraction is greater than 1. I am then looking to see how far Ro rides. So again, I broke my fraction strip, I broke my fraction bar from 0 to 1, and I broke that up into 1/4 size pieces, broke it up into fourths. And then I continued from 1 to 2, so I'm going to label each part with my unit fraction 1/4. Now it says that Ro rides her bike 5/4 miles. So what I would like you to do is I would like you to shade in 5/4 and compare the 2 fractions. You do not have to use your number line. You can use your fraction strips or your fraction circle if that helps you. And then you need to tell me who travels farther. Mr. Terry will go over these 2 workbook pages with you in his video tomorrow. So make sure that you have your homework ready for his video tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining me with your workbook help, and great job working hard.